Good morning, Neuqua Valley. I'm Emily Seddon from Neuqua Connections, here with our special guest, Sheryl Schnell. She's here to tell us about her interesting pastime. So, from what we understand, you originally lived in Montreal, Canada. What led you to living somewhere else?
Well, I was raised by my grandmother, and her husband made a lot of money back then and built buildings all over Montreal. And he went to Nassau, Bahamas, and decided to build some beautiful, beautiful homes. And so she took me at the age of 2 for health reasons, because as an infant I had pneumonia and had issues breathing. So she took me to Nassau supposedly for a few months, but it turned out to be 10 years. And I had a very wonderful life. It was all meant to be. I was raised with chauffeurs and gardeners and cooks, and I wish I had that life now, but I don't. And then at the age of 10, the education in Nassau was not that great, so my grandmother sent me to Jamaica to boarding school, so I lived there for 2 years, and that was cool because I still got to come home for Christmas, Easter, and summer, but my Easter and Christmas, I got a month vacation, so that was cool. And it was a great life. I enjoyed it, and by the time I was 12, she decided to bring me back to Montreal to be with the family and be raised with the family.
While you were in Jamaica or Nassau, what was different about living there than living in Montreal or
the weather?
States? The weather.
So at 2, I didn't really know and remember what snow was. So at 10, when I went back, or 12 I should say, when I went back to Montreal, I loved snow, because just in the Bahamas it was just all hot, but it was still beautiful.
Were there different foods you had to get used to eating?
Well,
or different?
at the age of 2, I really didn't know what I was eating, so it didn't matter. So I did grow up with a lot of citrus. We actually grew our grapefruit trees, orange trees, mangoes, tangerines. We had an avocado tree. So the cook that we had cooked basically Caribbean food, and that is what I am used to, and I love that. So it was more or less getting used to eating boring food when I went back to Montreal.
So we've all heard basically there's different dangers in different countries, like living in Jamaica on not a resort property. What were some of the dangers you faced living there?
In Jamaica, there is a group called the Rastas, and they live, and I think they still live there, in what they call the bush. And you had to be careful of that, because they would hurt you. So you didn't want to.
Just on your regular walk to school or something, or when would
Well,
they?
I was in a boarding school, so I never walked to school. I lived there. It's like living on campus.
Oh.
Okay, but if we were to say go shopping, you'd have to be careful if you went shopping downtown, say in Kingston or Montego Bay, one of those. You'd have to watch out.
Okay. And what made you decide to move to the States after going back to Montreal?
Okay, so when I came back to Montreal, I graduated high school there. Then by the age of 18, I decided to go back to Nassau for a visit, because I missed everyone. And I met the man of my dreams there, and we fell in love, and we had a long distance courtship. He was from Chicago, I was from Montreal, and we'd go back and forth. And eventually I moved to Chicago. Yes.
Was it a hard process moving from country to country all those times?
Yes. It took a lot of paperwork, a lot of visas. You know, I'm an American citizen now. I've lived here for 45 years, so this is my home.
If you could pick any of those countries to live in permanently, if you could take your family with you and everything, which one would you choose?
Ooh. Can I choose 2?
Sure.
I love Canada. I love Canada. I have big family in Canada, so I would love that. But I also have my ties here. So I'd have to split it up. 6 months here, 6 months there.
Very neat. How did these places differ in activities you would do?
Well, our winters are longer in Montreal, so you would be doing more outdoor activities. with the winter with ice skating, sledding, things like that, which of course you wouldn't do that in the Bahamas. In the Bahamas, I was in the ocean, or I would go fishing. I was taught how to fish, and not by a rod, by a line that you literally would pull in with your hands, and the bigger the cut you got from the line, the bigger the fish. That was a good thing to get your hands all cut up. So that was fun.
Did you enjoy doing all these different things in these different countries? Like, was there anything that you had to get used to that you didn't like?
No, no, not really. I liked it all. I was not a good ice skater, so that was probably my least favorite.
Okay. And when you were living in like Nassau or Jamaica, was it what it looks like on all the postcards
Yes,
and what people describe it
absolutely beautiful. We had a beautiful, beautiful house, and the window overlooked the ocean. So it was beautiful, and that is exactly how it is. And the sand is like baby powder.
And back in Montreal, Canada, why were you raised by your grandparents?
My parents both died when I was a baby. I was 7 months old. So my grandma took me, and she raised me, and that was awesome because her husband, like I said, he was a millionaire, so I had a great life. So it was good.
What would you say after raising a daughter of your own was different about being raised by your grandparents rather than your blood parents?
Raising my daughter versus a grandmother raising me is the generation gap. That would be the difference. So.
All right. And was there anything you wish you would have had, like with having your mother around, than you did with your grandma, or was everything
No, because
still
I
the
didn't.
same?
No, I didn't know any difference. You know, it was normal to me. I called my grandmother Mom, and that was normal to me. I had all my animals, cats, dogs. I was happy.
Very cool. While you lived in these different places, did they come with you, and did they live with you in all these places?
No, when I went from Nassau to Jamaica, I was only 10, and that was what was frightening because my grandma had to put me on a plane. I had guardians in Jamaica. It was a Methodist minister and his wife, and they were in charge of me with being a minor, but she was not able to come because prior to my going to Nassau, we had a robbery at our house, and our passports and papers were stolen. So she couldn't come because my grandma is of English descent. She was from England. So the papers were stolen, so that's why she had to ship me off, so to speak, on my own. So that was scary. I had to do everything. I had to learn how to do my own laundry. You know, I had to do everything. That's why I like my watches.
And while you lived in Jamaica, were you still able to keep in contact with your parents?
Yes. I was able to write, and we couldn't communicate by phone. We just could communicate by letters. So my favorite part of school there was what's called a tuck time. At 4 o'clock, it's like tea time in England, and our chauffeur was a great carpenter, and he built me what they call a tuck box. It's like a chest, a wooden chest, with my name carved in on top, loaded with goodies, all kinds of food, cookies, crackers, things like that. So that was my best part, my favorite.
So while you were in these other countries, then you had no problem making friends and new family?
No, not at all. Nope, not at all. It
Very
was
nice.
interesting. It was fun.
Well, that's very fun.
Now,
And
I would still like to go back to Nassau again.
to the Bahamas?
Yes.
Very nice.
That could
What
be a
was your
trip.
favorite part of the Bahamas?
The food. I love the food. I miss that.
Well, very
So-
neat. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and that's all the time we have, so thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me and inviting me.
Absolutely. And I'm sure we'd all love to visit these other countries. So from Nequa Connection, I'm Emily Seddon. Thank you.